Hello everyone, I'm Frank and welcome to Learn How to Sudoku, where we take a very easy variant Sudoku puzzle and we break it down in detail so that you can learn how to Sudoku. Today's very easy puzzle is called Dutch Flatmates, Leapfrog of War. And it's by Palpot. And here are the rules. Normal Sudoku rules apply, which means place the digits 1 to 9 in each row, column, and 3 by 3 box. We also have Dutch flatmates, where every 5 in the grid must have a 1 directly above it or a 9 directly below it. It may have both, but it doesn't need both. So every 5 fulfills one of these criterias at least. It must have a 1 above it or a 9 below it. And that's how Dutch flatmates work. We also have frog leap, where frogs cover the grid. Adjacent digits across frogs leap in value and differ by exactly 3, and all possible frogs are given. So, if this were, say, a 2, this would have to be a 5, because that only digit, if this was a 2, this would have to be a 5. Or you could have, say this was a 5, this would then have to be a 2 or an 8, because cells separated by a frog leap must differ in value by exactly 3. And all possible frogs are given, which means that there cannot be... This is called what we call in variant Sudoku a negative constraint here, because it's saying that if you had, say, a 5 here, you could not have a 2 or an 8 here, because there would have to be a frog in between them to signify that because all possible frogs are given. All possible cells where you have a difference of exactly 3 must have a frog in between them, right? Because we know that all possible frogs are given. And this is what we consider in variant Sudoku a negative constraint, because it's basically we're constraining the puzzle with the negative value of essentially a rule set. And in this case, it's the frog leap, right? Where basically we're saying all frogs have been given. Therefore, any combination of 2 cells, adjacent digits, must have a frog leap in between them, right? So they have to have a frog leaping between those cells. So therefore, if this is 5, you cannot have a 2 or 8 here, but you must have a 2 or 8 here. And that's how frog leaps work. I hope I explained that a negative constraint so that it was clear. Yeah, well, if it wasn't clear, just leave a comment in the comment section and let me know what was not very clear about that. Or if you just didn't understand it. And then finally, we have in this puzzle Fog of War, where a grid is covered in fog. Placing the correct digits reveals cells in the surrounding 3 by 3 area. So no guessing is required. So if we place a digit correctly here, it would clear the fog in that cell and in the surrounding cells here. So it would clear these 9 cells if you placed a digit correctly in that digit there. And you don't require guessing because you should be able to logic your way through everything here. And those are all the rules. If you'd like to play along, there's going to be a link in the description. And now, I'm going to get started. Let's learn how to Sudoku. Okay, so here we have frogs each in these 2 columns and 2 frogs each separating all 3 cells in this box. Where can the 5 be? So I'm using the Dutch flatmates constraint here, because that's pretty unique. So if 5 were to be here, the problem is 5 always has to have a 1 above it or a 9 below it, right? Well, if the 5 were here, the problem is you would have to be next to a 2 or an 8 above it, because it's a frog's leap that divides these cells. So 5 can never be here because it would never have a 9 below it, because 9 couldn't possibly be below it, and you couldn't have a 1 above it. Same here. If a 5 were one of these two cells, this would have to be in a... this would have to have 3 digits directly above it. Sorry, a digit that's 3 differs from it by 3 in the cells above it and the cells below it. So 5 cannot be here, 5 cannot be here. Actually, what's more important, I think, is what are these digits? These digits must be essentially a digit from 4 through 6. And the reason why you know that is if you take a digit from 1 through 3, how many digits can it be exactly 3 away from? The only answer is 1, right? 1, 2, and 3. 1 could be only 3 away from 4. 2 can only be 3 away from 5. 3 can only be 3 away from 6. Now take a look at 7, 8, and 9. What digits can be exactly 3 away from those digits? 9 can be 3 digits away, 3 away from 6. 8 can only be exactly 3 away from 5. And 7 can only be exactly 3 away from 4. So the only digits that can be 3 away, exactly 3 away from 2 other digits are 4 through 6. But again, as we said, if this is 5, it has to have a 2 or an 8 above it and a 2 or an 8 below it, which means you cannot have a 1 here, you cannot have a 9 here. So the 5 would not be valid in either of these cells. So this must be 4 and 6 here. So the 4 and 6 can only have... the 4 can only be next to 1 and 7 if it's next to 2 frogs. So 1 and 7 have to be in some combination here. And the 6 can only be next to 3 and 9 if it's next to 2 frogs. So this must be 3 or 9, and this must be 3 or 9. Well, in this box, we have a 1, 3, 7, 9 quadruplet and a 4, 6 pair. The 1, 3, 7, 9 quadruplet must contain 1, 3, 7, and 9, and it can therefore the rest of the box cannot contain 1, 3, 7, and 9. And the 4, 6 pair eliminates all 4s and 6s also in the same box. Therefore, the rest of this box must be 2, 5, and 8. But if 5 is here, the 5 can't have a 9 below it or 1 above it. If the 5 is here, the 5 cannot have a 9 below it or a 1 above it because the only remaining digits are 2, 5, and 8. So the 5 has to be here with a 1 above it. So this must be 5 and this must be 1. This is a 2 or 8 here. Must be a 2 or 8 here. And this must be 2 or 8 because that's the only digits remaining there. This cell is also next to two cells which it has a difference of 3, 4. So this could be 4, 5, or 6 here. If this is 4, one of these digits would have to be 1 and the other one would be 7. But we can't have a 1 in this box anymore. So this cannot be 4. If this is 5, this is 2 and 8 together. If this is 6, this has to be 3 and 9 together. What else do we know? If this is a 5, a 9 has to be directly below it because a 1 cannot be directly above it. So if this is not 6, this has to be a 5. which would mean this is 2 and 8 and 2 and 8, and then 9 would have to be directly below it, which would force this to be 6 and this to be 3. That's interesting. Otherwise, this is 6, and therefore this must be 3 and 9. So this digit can never be 6, because it would, if this is 5, this would have to be a 9 here, which forces this to be 6, and therefore this would see 6. Can't be 1, obviously. It cannot be 3. Because if, again, so okay, let's go through this combination. If this is 5, this becomes 9, 6, and 3, and this is a 2, 8 pair. So what would it be in that instance? It could not be 3, 6, or 9. It could not be 1. It could not be 2, 5, or 8. So it would have to be 4 or 7, right? No 3, 6, 9 here, because this would be 9, 6, and 3. This would have to be 4 or 7. If this is 6 with 3 and 9 here, it could be 5, it could be 2 and 8, and it could be 4 or 7. So those are all valid. What are the other possibilities? Okay, what are the possibilities for the rest of column 3? They have to be 4, 6, 7, 8, not, sorry, 3, 4, 6, 7, 9. But this can't be 4 because it's not 3 away from 1. Hmm. 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 We know 5 cannot be any of these 3 cells, because if they were, they would have to have a frog in between them and the 2 and 8 here. But it's still kind of broad what it can be. Hmm. If this were 5, it could have a 9 below it. If this were 5, it could have a 9 below it. Because this would have to be 3, 9, 6. If this were 5, it could have a 1 above it, though. If this is 6, that would make this 4, which would make this 1, 7. So could this actually be 5? If this were 5, it still could be a 9 below it. Yeah, so that still works. Oh. If this is 6, that forces this to be 4, which forces this to be 6. So then this would have to be 3 and 9 next to the 6, which would make this a 3-9 pair here, which eliminates 3 and 9 from that cell because of the 3-9 in that pair. So if this were 6, that would force this to be 4, which would make that 6. This would be 3-9 pair. Therefore, this couldn't be 3 or 9, and that wouldn't work then for this to being 6. So this has to be a 5. This is a 5 with a 2 or an 8 next to it. That eliminates 2 and 8 in the rest of the box. This also can't be 5. This 5 needs a 9 below it, so this must be 9, which means this is 3 away from 9, so this must be 6, which makes that a 3. Therefore, this is a 4. This can't be 3 or 9. This can't be 3 or 9. If this were 4 or 7, this would be 3 away from the other 4 or 7, so this can't be 4 or 7 here. Well, where can the 4 be now in this box? Can't be here because of the 4 here. Can't be here because it would be next to 1, and therefore there would be a frog there. Oh wait, this could be 4 or 7 because we know. Okay, so one of these must be a 4. We don't know if there's a frog or not here. This is 2 or 8. This is 2 or 8. This is 5. If there's a 5, we know where's the last 5 in, where's the 5 in column 1? Can't be any of these cells, can't be any of these cells. If there's a 5, it has to be one of these 3 digits. Well, can it ever have a 1 above it? No, because there was a 1-7 pair in the same column, which eliminates 1 and 7 from the rest of the column. So the 1 can never be above this 5. 9, therefore, has to be below this 5. So 9 has to be either here, here, or here, but we're not sure where. What are the remaining digits in these 2 cells? They can't be 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, or 8. Right? Because we have a 1, 2, 8, 5 in that box already accounted for. We have a 4 and 7 accounted for in the same column. So this must be 3, 6, and 9. But, so this can't be 9 because 5 can't be above it, right? And 5 needs to have a 9 directly below it or 1 directly above it. And it can't have the 1 directly above it because the 1 is below it. Somewhere here. So 9 cannot be here. If 3 is either of these, sorry, if 6 is either of these, then there would have to be a frog here in between these 2 cells, but there isn't. So 6 cannot be either of these. Therefore, this must be exactly 3 and 9, which makes this a 5 to have, because the 5 again in this column has to have a 9 directly below it. This can no longer be 5 or 9 here. This can't be 3 or 9. So this has to be 6 or 7. This cannot have a frog between them. So it cannot be 4 or 7 here. So this must be 6, which makes that a 7, which makes that a 4. This must be a 2 or an 8 to have a frog in between them. This cannot be 2 or 8 because there's no frog in between them. Where is the other 2 or 8 in column 1? It must be here, which leaves this as a 6. So this is a 6. This cannot be 6 or 7 here. This cannot be 3 or 9 because there's no frog in between them. And 6 must have a frog in between it and 3 and 9 because it's exactly 3 away from 3 or 9. So this is a 4. This can't be 4 here. That makes this a 3-9 pair. What are the remaining digits in this box? It must be 1 and 7. So this is 1 or 7. So we have a 5 with a 9 directly above it. Let's see, what else do we have? Do we have anything? This can't be 4. These can't be 4. And this can't be 4. This can't be 7 or 1. Oh, these two can't be 4. Okay, where can the 4 be in column 4? It has to be one of these two digits. Cannot be here, cannot be here, can't be any of these because there would be a frog in between them. Can't be here. It cannot be here, so it could also be here. Okay, that's not that helpful. Where can the 5 be in column 4? Can't be here. So 5 could be either of these two. Can't be here. It could be here or here. Cannot be here because of this 5. Can't be here because there would be a frog in between them, or it could be here. If this is 5, this would have to be a 1. That's valid. If this is 5, 9 could be here or 1 could be here. That's valid. If this is 5, 9 could be here or 1 could be here. That's valid. 5 here. 9 would have to be here. 1 or 1's there. Or 5. It's too much variety there. So this is satisfied. Let's mark those in green. This is satisfied. This is satisfied. Where can 6 be in column 4? 6 cannot be these two cells because they would be... well, it could be here, actually, because we don't know if there's a frog there. Cannot be here, cannot be... Could be there, can't be here. Could be here, could be... it's quite wide variety. Oh, this can't be 5. Well, actually, yes, there's no frog in between them. This cannot be 5. Because there is no frog in between them, and there would have to be a frog in between them for this to be 5. Same there, same there. This can't be 5 because of that 5. These could be 5, or these could be 5. That's still pretty broad. I wouldn't consider this very easy. The negative constraints does throw things for a loop. Let's see, what else do we have? What are the possibilities for this cage or this frog leap here? You can't have 3. You can't have 7. So you could have a 1-4 pair here as long as this is 1 and this is 4. Because if 4 were here, that would have to have a frog leap in between them. So you could have 1-4. You could have 5 and 2. I think that works either way. You can't have 3. You can't have 4-7. You already had 1-4 here. 2-5. 3-6 is removed. 4-7 is not possible. 5 and 8 works also in any capacity. 6 and 9 also works. That's pretty wide variety. Let's see. Okay. In this puzzle, there must be a 5, obviously, in row 1 somewhere, right? What does that 5 have to have? It has to have either a 1 above it, which is not possible, or a 9 below it. Well, 5 cannot be here, so 5 has to be one of these 6 digits, which means there must be a 9 underneath it to satisfy the Dutch flatmates rule set. Therefore, 9 has to be in one of these 6 cells, so this cannot be a 9 here, which means this must be a 3, which makes that a 9. This 9 is 3 away from another digit here, so it can only be 6 here, which makes this a 3. This can't be 5 anymore. So then 9 has to be one of these 4 digits. We're not sure which. But if this is 9, it would have to be in a frog's leap away from a 6 here, which is not possible because we have a 6 in the same box. So 9 has to be one of these 3 cells, which means 5 has to be one of those 3 cells. 9 cannot be, again, either of these 2 cells because it's next to a... it would have to be next to a 6 if it's a frog leaps away. So, none of these could be 9. Where is the 9 in row 3? Can't be any of these cells. Can't be any of these because, again, we need a 9 to be underneath the 5 in row 1. So, it must be here. So, this is a 9, which means this cannot be 6 or 9. This can't be... This has a 9 here. If this were 5, it would not have a 9 below it, and it could not have a 1 above it. So this can't be 5. So 5 is either here or it's here. Okay, where is the 5 in row 2? Can't be any of these cells because we know in row 1 the 5 has to be one of these 3 cells. Therefore, 5 must be one of these 3 cells in row 2 because it can't be here. But I guess you could have a 1 above it here. It cannot be here because 1 cannot be above it and 9 cannot be below it. So 5 is either here or here. But the problem with having 2 pairs here is if 5 were here, what would the frog combinations be? You could have 4 with 1 of 1 or 7, but 2 and 8 are not 3 away from each other. And you already have 3, 6, and 9 accounted for. If you had 1, 4, the 4 and 7 would have to be together. So one of these would have to be 4, and then this would be 7, but then that wouldn't make this frog correct. So this can never be 5. Actually, this can't even be 4 even, right? So this must be a 5 here with a 1 directly above it. So this is 5, 1. This is 7 then, which makes that a 1. This 5 is next to 2 or 8. Again, you need a 4 and a 7 pair to make this a frog valid, which means this can't be 4. This is a 2 or 8 here. We have a 2, 8, 2, 8 pair in column 4, which eliminates 2 and 8 from the rest of the column. Also, where can the 5 be? 5, again, cannot be here because if this is 5, it doesn't have a 1 above it or a 9 below it. This can't be 5 because of this 5. This can't be 5 because it's in a 2. It would be next to a 2 or an 8 without a frog between them. And this cannot be 5 because it's next to 2 or 8 without a frog in between. Therefore, this must be a 5, which makes this a 2 or an 8. Oops. A 2 or an 8. Where is the 4 then again? 4 can't be here. 4 can't be here because there should be a frog in between them. 4 can't be here. It has to be here. So this is 4. The remaining digits are 3, 1, and 7. This is 2 and 8 in column 4. This can't be 1 because of this 1. This could be 1, 3, or 7. This can't be 4 because of this 4, so this must be 7, which makes that a 4. The remaining digits in row 3 are 1, 3, and 6. And the only ones that are 3 away from each other are 3 and 6. So this is 3 and 6. This must be a 1. If this were 5, it would have to have, since there's a frog in between them, it could no longer be 9. And therefore, this 5 would not have a 1 above it or a 9 below it. So that's not valid. This 5 has to have a 1 above it or a 9 below it. So this must be a 1, which means this is satisfied now. This cannot be 1 here. This cannot be a 5 or a 9 here. So this can no longer be, this can't be 3 or 6. It can't be 9. It cannot have a 5 in it, so therefore it must be 4 and 7 exactly. So this must be 4, which makes this a 7. 5 and 9 has to have a 9 directly below it, and we have to have a 2 or an 8. So this is 2, 5, or 8. This is 2, 5, or 8, and this is 2, 8, or 9, and this is 2, 8, or 9 here. This cannot have a 5 anywhere with it. So for 2 digits that are 3 away from each other, you need either 4, a 5, or 6 in one of them. This can't be 5, it can't be 4, this must have a 6 then. So this is 6 and 3 or 6 and 9, but this can't be 9. This cannot have a 5 between. This cannot be 4, 5, or 6 here. So this must be a 4 or a 6 here. If this is 4, it has to be with 7, if it's because there's no 1 possible in its box. If this is 6, it cannot be 9, so this must be 3 next to it. We have a 3, 7 pair now in this box, which eliminates 3 and 7 in the rest of the box. This can't be 3. None of these could be 3, actually, because of this 3. So this must be, then, 6 and 9. Since there's a 9 here, where can the 5 be in this column 5? Cannot be here because there's no 1 above it, no 9 below it. Obviously, this is a 2 or 8. This can't be 5 because there's no 1 above it, so it must be here. So this is a 5, this is a 1. This is satisfied. We know this is a 2. That forces this to be 8, which makes that a 2, which makes that an 8, which makes that a 2, which makes that an 8. Therefore, 8 cannot be here, and 2 cannot be here. Because of those 8 and 2, this must be a 2. Because the 8 is eliminated by that 8, so this is 2, this is 8, this is 2. This must have a frog in between it. Well, what are these 2 digits possibly? It's 3, 7, and 9, right? But this can't be 9. We have a 3, 7, 3, 7 pair in this box now, which eliminates 3 and 7 from the rest of the box. Therefore, this is 9. This 2 means this is an 8, which makes that a 2. This 3 or 7 must be next to specifically 4 or 6. We have a 4, 6, 4, 6 pair in this box and a 3, 7, 3, 7 pair in this box, which leaves this being an 8. Let's see. What digits can be here? It has to have, one of these has to be a 5. Because 4 and 6 are not allowed. So therefore you won't have any digits that are 3 away from each other specifically here. So this must have a 5 then with a 2 or 8. It cannot be 2 because 2 is already in the row, so this must be 5 and 8. This then must be 3 or 7. This 9 could not be next to a 6 because then there would be a frog next to it. So this must be 4. This must be 7, which makes this a 3, which makes that a 7. This must be a 6, which makes this a 3, which makes that a 7. This 7 can only be next to 4 as a frog leaps away. So this is 4. This 7 eliminates that 7, so this is a 1, which makes that a 7. This 5 can no longer have a 1 above it, because this must be a 2-3 pair. Therefore, it must have a 9 below it. So 9 has to be one of these, and we also have 1 and 6 here. The only digits that are 3 away from each other are 6 and 9 here. Therefore, this must be a 1. But the 5 has to have a 9 directly below it, because there can't have a 1 above it. So this must be 5, which makes that a 9, which makes that 6. Therefore, this is an 8. These are satisfied. This must be 4, because it can't be 5 or 6, and it has 2 frog leaps next to it, which means it can only be 4, 5, or 6. So this is 4. This has to be 1 or 7, but can't be 1. So this must be 7, which makes that a 1. These two digits are 2 and 5. Well, this must be 9. This cannot have a 1 above it or a 9 below it, so this must be a 2, which makes that the 5. So this 5 is satisfied here. This can't be 5, so this must be 2, which makes that an 8, which makes that a 9. This must be a 5. This can't be 6 because there would be a frog's leap in between, so this is 3, this is 6. This can't be 3 because of this 3, so therefore this must be a 2, which makes that a 3. This 5 is satisfied. This 5 is definitely satisfied. And then we fill out the remaining digits from normal Sudoku. This must be 3. This is an 8, and this is a 6. And wow, there's a lot of, I'm not sure what this is, but I guess it's a lot of frog leaps. Oh, it's showing where all the Dutch flatmates are, right? And everything else is covered in frog instead of fog. Interesting. Pretty cool, yeah, because it had the 1-5, it had the 5-9, 5-9, 1-5, yeah. Interesting use of Fog of War and the Dutch flatmates. I'm not very good with Dutch flatmates, so that's why it took me a little longer. I still don't think I would consider this very easy, because you have first you have to understand sort of how the Frog of War works, or the frog leaps work, and what that entails, right? That you have to have a 4, 5, and 6 amongst every frog leap pair. You also have to understand negative constraints and sort of how that restricts you. Yeah, I don't think I would consider this very easy. Just like yesterday's puzzle, where it didn't seem like it was a very easy puzzle. It seemed like more of an easy puzzle. This also feels more like an easy puzzle to me. But people are going to rate it the way they rate it. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Learn How to Sudoku, and I'll see you next time on Frank Puzzles. Take care.